was I was looking at this launch thing with Apple. Now, I've mentioned to you guys before that Apple is a company that I want to invest in. The stock picks that I laid out for you guys, if you log into the blackstockmarketprogram.com in the What Dr. Boyce is Buying section, you'll see that Apple was one of the stocks that I mentioned, and I had a few other stocks that I picked. And the reason I picked Apple is for short-term and long-term reasons. Long-term, I believe Apple's just a great investment. They're very good at making money. The short-term, I believe that Apple may actually experience, they could potentially experience some problems economically in the short run for a couple of reasons. One of the big concerns has to do with some supply chain issues. Apple's having a really hard time getting the supplies that it needs, and people anticipate that Apple has enough pricing power that they can push those additional costs onto the consumer, right? And this is what in economics they talk about. This is what they call price elasticity. Price elasticity is how much is the consumer willing to pay extra in order to get your product in case you jack up the price. So, for example, a highly inelastic product, meaning that that you're still going to have demand no matter what the price is, will be like a drug. A highly addictive drug. Like if you have the dope dealer in the hood, and he's selling his crack for $20 an ounce, and then he says it's going to now be $25 an ounce. The crackheads are still going to show up, and they're going to come with that extra $5 because they have to have their drug, right? And so some products are addictive. Some products are designed to be addictive. That's why Facebook gets a lot of scrutiny right now, because they designed Facebook to be addictive. That's why you got to be really careful. There's a lot of mental health issues that come with excessive use of social media. My wife, who's an expert on the subconscious mind and all this other stuff, she's actually cited research to me where that basically claim that that social media can lead to a lot of depression for a couple of reasons. That at least one is that you're always comparing yourself to other people and seeing, and everybody else is pretending to live their best life. So you say, well, I'm not living my best life. Or everybody has a perfect relationship. Well, I don't have a perfect relationship. Everybody's made $1 million last year. Well, I didn't make $1 million last year. I'm still on the plantation, right? So you start feeling bad about your life. So you got to be real careful about comparing yourself to others. But then the other is more chemical. And it relates to dopamine. And basically what they do with social media platforms like Facebook and Apple and other companies are accused of this, is they make you addicted to their product by releasing dopamine based on how they randomize the content that you see. So what they'll do is they lean on the science behind gambling addictions. The reason gambling addicts continue to gamble is because there's a randomness. Right. If everything was predictable, like if the gambler knew he was always going to lose every time, he would stop gambling. If he knew he was always going to win every time, it would be boring. Maybe he would keep playing just to get the money, but it wouldn't excite him as much as the anticipation of knowing that there's a mixture. Like sometimes he wins, sometimes he might not win. And every time he thinks about walking away, he's saying, well, this might be the one big time. If I play one more hand, this might be the big hand that gets me over the top. Right. So that randomness is actually incorporated in the way social media feeds work. And so Facebook kind of does that to kind of play with your head a little bit. And then also all those bells and all these beeps and dings and buzzes, those are designed also to train you like Pavlov's dog. Every time you hear ding, you know that that's a new message. You don't know what's in it. You're excited. It's like opening up a Christmas gift, right? You hear a buzz. That means you got a new text message. You hear another little sound. That means you got somebody tweeted at you, right? So ultimately, what I encourage you to do is, if you want to get rid of the psychological aspects of social media, at the very least, turn off all the notifications and all the bells and buzzes and dings and beeps, except for the ones that really matter for you. So I have certain news feeds that where I want to keep up with the news. So that's important to me. That's exciting for me to keep up with what's going on in the world and connect with what people are thinking about. And so I turn those on, but everything else I turn off. If you text me, I will see it when I see it. If you email me, I probably won't even know about it, because I stopped messing with email. It was overwhelming, right? I get 1,000 emails a day. If you tweet at me, I don't even care. I won't even know. If you at me on Facebook and I get a notification, I won't see that. Nothing's going to buzz or ding on my phone, because that will drive you insane, right? So just keep that in mind, and especially for your children, because your children, they don't know the things that we know. They don't know what you and I know about mental health and all that. So they're 10 years old getting used to all the buzzes and beeps and dings and all that. And that's connected to ADHD. That's connected to depression. Those constant dopamine triggers, what that does is it creates depression for the same reason that a cocaine addict gets depressed when he doesn't have his cocaine, right? So just be very careful about that. So with that being said, Apple is they're the masters of the bells and buzzes and beeps and dings, and they control your life, and everybody's staring at their screen. So Apple does these big launches that are going that take over the world. Everybody pays attention to say, what is Apple doing now? Well, that's really interesting. But what's interesting as well is that Apple's running into a couple of little issues right now that people aren't really talking about. And I read an article today. Let me see, what was it? It was on this site called payments.com, PYMTS. And it says that there are security and supply chain issues right now with Apple that may affect its launch. And it says, as it has nearly every September for over a decade, Apple is preparing to unveil its newest slate of iPhones, the 13th generation overall, and the second with 5G capabilities. And while analysts aren't expecting a massive redesign of the flagship iPhone, increased processing power and improved cameras are among the anticipated features. Lurking in the background of this year's event, though, are dark clouds that threaten to impede the mountainous sunrise Apple has chosen to represent California streaming. That's what they're calling it. Instead of California dreaming, California streaming. For one, the event comes less than 24 hours after Apple was forced to rush fix a security gap that has allowed NSO Group, an Israeli cybersecurity firm, to silently infect iPhones using iMessage since February. Apple, in a statement, said attacks using the flaw are, quote, highly sophisticated, cost millions of dollars to develop, and often have a short shelf life and are used to target specific individuals. But that is still an issue. So cybersecurity experts are still saying this is a problem. Additionally, as much as executives likely want to avoid discussing how nearly 18 months of supply chain issues have impacted the company, they may be forced to in the form of higher prices. Apple tends to keep the cost of new iPhones relatively close to previous models, but chip shortages and other logistical hurdles are expected to cause a bump. The basic iPhone 12 starts at $799, and the iPhone 12 Pro starts at $999. On a conference call with investors and analysts in July, CEO Tim Cook said Apple is, quote, paying more for freight than I would like to pay. He says, we'll do everything we can to mitigate whatever set of circumstances we're dealt. Last month, it was reported that TSMC, Apple's leading chip supplier, is looking to increase costs by as much as 20% starting in January. David McQueen, a director at market research firm ABI Research, told CNN that despite the high profit margins that Apple sees on its iPhones, quote, it would be no surprise if Apple passed this rise on to the consumers, potentially pushing prices of its iPhones to their highest level ever. California streaming is also happening less than a week after a judge ruled that the California-based tech giant cannot force developers to use its in-app purchasing, opening the door for developers to set up links to otherwise communicate with users in ways that steer them away from Apple's payment platform. Apple last month also settled a $100 million class action lawsuit bought by app developers, which allows developers to connect directly with end users via email and other alternative payment options for them to purchase subscriptions and other offerings. So what's interesting about this Apple thing to me is I don't doubt that Apple is still going to be able to dominate and make its money. But one of the things that's allowed Apple to really do so well is that Apple has been able to make itself the only game in town. They've been able to really push a proprietary nature, of their products in a way where, it's only available on Apple. You can only do this on Apple. If you want to go through this process, you got to pay Apple. And now, the courts are kind of questioning that. They're kind of taking that down. So I think a lot of that started with that company, Epic Games. The Epic Games, I think they own Fortnite, and they were basically suing Apple, saying it's not fair that you're taking 30% of the money that our customers pay us. We should be able to collect that money directly. And Apple said, no, you're using our platform. You got to pay us. And so the judge is kind of taking that away, that sort of exclusivity that Apple had, and allowing companies to directly collect the money. And so what some have speculated, and I thought about this and I agree with this, is that a lot of these payment processing companies may see a come up from this. They said PayPal is a company that may benefit dramatically from the fact that a lot of payment processing is now going to bypass Apple and go through other channels. So maybe that might be a reason to see a bump in PayPal's revenue or something like that. Not telling you to buy PayPal stock. I think I did recommend it though a few weeks ago, but I do because I like it and I own it. But at the same time, these payment processors may benefit from Apple's so-called demise. I don't think Apple's going to see too much demise, but they might see a little bit of it. So it's going to be interesting. Now, again, I think the good outweighs the bad with Apple. That's why I bought the stock. But you could see some bumps as a result of some of this stuff that's going on. Okay, guys. So Let me go back. I'm gonna get back to answering your questions that you have inside the class. Those of you who are listening on the outside, I'm gonna shut this feed down. If you want to join us, we'll be in here for a little while. Join us at the blackstockmarketprogram.com. The URL's right there on the screen. We're about to shut this down. So everybody have a good day, and we'll hopefully see you in class.